There are stories in this world that people are afraid to repeat, not because they are false, but because they are too true. This is one of them. It is the story of a boy who spoke to the dead, and the dead in return changed everything about his village. Before we dive into the story, please let me know the country, the state, or the city you are watching from in the comment section. Let's get back to the story. In the quiet village of Umokoro, there was a child everyone avoided. His name was Nkena. From the day he could walk, something about him was different. He did not play with other children. He did not laugh much. And most disturbing of all, he was often seen talking to graves. At first, the villagers thought it was childish behavior, but then strange things began to happen. Whenever Nkena stood near a grave for too long, the wind would stop. Even the birds would go silent, and sometimes he would answer questions no one had asked him out loud. That was when fear entered the village. They began to call him the boy who listens where no one speaks. I remember the day everything changed. A wealthy man in the village suddenly passed on, Shifunwosu. The village called it natural death. There was mourning, crying, and preparations for burial. But on the night of the burial, something happened that no one has ever been able to explain. As the coffin was being lowered into the ground, Nkena, who had been standing far away, suddenly walked forward. He stopped right beside the grave, and then he froze. His body began to shake violently, and when he spoke, it was not the voice of a child. It was deep, heavy, and old. I did not die from sickness. I was poisoned by the one I called brother. Panic broke out immediately. People began shouting. The elders rushed towards him, trying to silence him. One of them slapped him so hard he fell into dust. But what happened next terrified everyone even more, because Nkena stood up again and continued speaking. You can bury the body, but you cannot bury the truth. That night, something broke in the village. Shifunwosu's brother disappeared before sunrise, and by the next morning, he had confessed everything. From that day forward, nothing remained normal, because Nkena became something the village had never seen before. Every time someone died, he would hear them, not in dreams, not in imaginations, but clearly as if they were standing beside him. And when funerals came, the dead would speak through him. Some exposed killers, some revealed stolen lands, some named people who had lived in lies for decades. At first, the village called it justice, but very quickly, justice became fear, because the dead never stopped talking. And Nkena never stopped collapsing after every message. His body grew weaker, his eyes grew darker, and sometimes he would wake up speaking words he did not remember saying. Then came the day he asked about his father. Nkena had grown up without him. The story was simple. His father was accused of stealing village gold and disappeared, but Nkena never believed it, so he went to the oldest graveyard in the village, and that night he heard a voice that was not like others. It called him by name, and it said, "Your father did not steal anything." Nkena froze. He was silenced because he discovered the truth about this village. That was the first time Nkena ran from a grave in fear. Days later, another burial changed everything again. A second confession came through him, then a third. Then secrets long buried began to rise like smoke, and the village that once called him curse started calling him justice. But I tell you now, justice and curse often wear the same face, because the more Nkena spoke for the dead, the less it belonged to the living. One night, something unusual happened. He did not go to a grave. The grave came to him. A voice stronger than all the others called his name. It led him deep into the forest, to a sealed burial site no one spoke about. There, Nkena dug with his bare hands, and what he found changed everything. It was his father's grave. But inside, there was something strange, a letter. And in that letter, his father wrote, If you are reading this, then they have already started using you. The village elders are not innocent. They serve something older than all of us, something that chooses who speaks through the dead. Ikenna could not breathe because this meant the dead were not simply speaking through him. They were being directed, controlled, and used. That night, the truth finally revealed itself. The oldest grave in the village opened on its own. No one touched it. No one dug it. And from inside, voices began to rise together. Not one, not two, but many. And they spoke as one. Ikenna, you are not the first. You are only the next vessel. The last messenger died refusing to obey. The ground trembled. And for the first time, the village elders came running. Not to push Ikenna, but to stop him from hearing more. Because now they were afraid. Not of the boy, but of what it was becoming. On the final day, something happened that no one in the village ever forgot. Every grave that had ever heard an unjust death opened slightly. The air became heavy, and the voices of the dead filled the entire village at once. Ikenna stood in the center of it all, shaking, crying, breaking, and then he made a decision. He raised his head and said, "No more voices through me. If the dead want justice, they must speak through truth, not through my pain." And then he screamed, a long, painful scream that echoed across the village, and suddenly everything stopped. Silence returned, the graves closed, the wind returned, and Ikenna collapsed. They say after that day, he never spoke to the dead again. Some say he lost the gift, others say he broke the curse. But there is one last thing the elders never tell anyone, because years later in another village far away, a child was born, and one night he began talking to empty graves. And that, my friends, is how I leave this story with you. Because in this world, justice does not always come from the living. Sometimes it comes from those who refuse to stay silent in death. This story leaves us with a hard truth. Justice is powerful, but it is not always simple. Ikenna started as a child who only wanted the truth to be heard. But the more he listened to the dead, the more he discovered something deeper, that even justice can be manipulated and even truth can be used as a weapon. In the end, he had to make a choice. Not every voice must be carried forever. Not every truth must pass through one broken vessel. And not every burden of justice belongs to one person alone. Because when one person carries the weight of every secret, every crime, and every confession, they slowly stop living for themselves. True justice should bring healing, not destroy the one who carries it. And that, my friends, is the story of the boy who spoke to the dead. Please, if you are new to this channel, do well to click the subscribe button, like, share, and comment. Until our next video, may wisdom guide your paths.